Ah, shit. Get your tea and your popcorn because this is going to be a good one. Has anyone noticed that everyone on YouTube is talking about, thinking about, and making videos about who? Oh, that's right, the Exoticals. Has anyone noticed that all of the Exotical haters, they tend to either be overweight women, kind of like Chrissy or like Golden Goddess, or they are uneducated women. They're women who are not pretty privileged, or in a lot of cases, they are MLS women who, for whatever reason, they didn't have the privileges that they should have had in life. These are women who can relate more to being at the bottom of society versus being pedestalized. And so they're upset because us exoticals are getting notoriety and admiration. And my question is, if all of the exoticals are just regular, dark skinned, nappy headed, or bald headed black women, if that's who all of the exoticals are, then why are these women so threatened? They're threatened because they don't like the admiration that we get. They don't like the unapologetic self love that we have in the exotical space. And another thing that I hear is some people say, like, oh, the exoticals are a cult. Those women don't know what it's like to actually have a sense of community. They don't know what it's like to have a sense of sisterhood. They don't know how to build a YouTube channel that has passionate subscribers. They don't inspire people enough to have other people create channels based off of their talking points. So that's why when they see the exoticals and they see how we actually support each other and how we don't hate on each other, that's what makes them say that we're a cult. They are so far removed from having a strong community that they think that any sort of alliances on YouTube, that must be a cult. And it's like, ma'am, tell me you come from a dysfunctional family without telling me you come from a dysfunctional family. Just because you come from a background where everybody hates each other, you hate your sister, you hate your mom, you hate your dad, everybody doesn't get along, everybody's rivals. These women are so shocked to see the exoticals staying on code that they have to try to divide us up based on who's light and who's dark. Because another talking point they'll say is, oh, well, the exoticals, they don't like dark-skinned women. They don't like women who have type 4 hair. They don't like women who are not ambiguous looking. They're biased. They're just using you as a token. So they want to give the talking point that you're a token if you have 4C hair. Wait a minute. I thought that I had 4C hair. I thought that the argument on YouTube is that I myself am dark skinned, unambiguous, and I have 4C hair. Also, if people truly believed that all of us exoticals are dark skinned and unambiguous with 4C hair, then why would they react so badly to us? Why would they be so threatened by us? We are their representation. It's like, ma'am, I'm your representation then. That means I'm a part of your community. You thought you could get rid of me? I'm your sister. What are you talking about? We have the exact same phenotype, right? So then why are you so mad? I also want to point out that not one person has been able to actually address my talking points. And this is exactly what I said. This is the psychology of somebody who has no actual talking points. They have no actual communities. And so instead of addressing the talking points of exoticals, they would rather resort to trying to insult random women that they think are us, or they try to find or dox the exoticals. They would rather resort to that because they're trying to use shame as a weapon. And that's because in the unambiguous community, a lot of them have dealt with a lot of shame. A lot of them are ashamed of their phenotype, skin tone. They're ashamed to wear a weave, but then they're ashamed to wear their real hair. They're ashamed of wearing red lipstick, but then they're ashamed of wearing no makeup. So a lot of them have lived a lifestyle of shame. And a lot of the monocultural MLS women that attack exotical channels, they also have grown up with those same traumas because they had the disadvantages associated with unambiguous women's experiences, which is why they can relate to them according to their own talking points. So they try to use shame as a weapon as if we actually care what they think. You can't cancel the exoticals. We're here to play and we're here to stay. We're not going anywhere. My channel is never going anywhere. I'm not getting rid of my channel. I'm not getting rid of any of my talking points. I stand 10 toes down on anything I've ever done or said. And I think that's really what makes them so upset because a lot of women, they try to say, oh, the exotical channels are bullying channels. Bullying actually goes against the YouTube terms of service. So if our channels were truly just bullying or racist or colorist or whatever, YouTube would have removed us a long time ago. Why not hit the report button? Why not report us to YouTube? Why are we still here after all these years? Why are we still here 4 years later and tens of thousands of subscribers later if we are truly just racist, colorist, texturist, and featurist? Then why would other women be inspired by my content and start their own channels and discuss their experiences if all of us are just racist, colorist, texturist, and featurist? Do you see how their talking points fall apart? So the reason people try to create narratives about the exotical channels is because it's a silencing tactic. They don't like the fact that we have a voice. The whole conversation was never about ending colorism. It was about dark skin supremacy. The conversation about racism and black empowerment YouTube, it was never about ending racism. It was about black supremacy. Wanting to put mixed women at the bottom, or wanting to put light-skinned women at the bottom, wanting to put multicultural women at the bottom. That was the true agenda, because why would you be so upset about me creating a YouTube channel then? If the true goal is that, everybody has a right to have a voice on YouTube, then why would it be, oh, everybody can speak online except for the exoticals? Okay, that's proof that you feel threatened. And that's why we see content creators like Chrissy, Harmony Simone TV, Blunt Girly. That's why we see content creators like that coming against the exotical space, is because they're threatened by our admiration. They're also unable to address any of our talking points. I've also noticed this obsession with comparing themselves to us as well, because what they'll do is they'll pull up pictures of these exoticals. They're pulling up photos and then they're comparing themselves to the photos of these women. So that's how I know that we are your beauty standard. The fact that you're even comparing yourself to the exoticals, the fact that you're comparing your hair, your makeup, your skin tone, your body type, that shows that we are your beauty standard. So they're literally proving my point with their content. And also, nobody actually cares about any of those creators. Have you ever noticed that? Have you ever noticed that the main creators that come against the exotical channels are stagnant creators like Chrissy, it's Lashid for You TV. It's all these creators where they don't have any actual stands. They don't have people that stand 10 toes down with them. They don't have people creating YouTube channels based on theirs. It's always these stagnant, dying channels where their relevance is going down, their talking points are no longer applicable. And another thing too, for the people who say that my content is bad or whatever, it's I don't see those women offering any solutions. So for example, they'll say things like, oh, the exoticals are not that pretty. Okay, what solution do you have for your audience that's watching? How is calling another woman ugly, how is that helping your audience? Is that helping your audience to gain pretty privilege by calling random women on the internet unattractive? So I've noticed these women, they're very male-centered, and what they're doing is they're upset because they know that the exoticals have the male gaze, whether it's the black male gaze, white male gaze, whatever. And so what they're doing is they want to try to put videos up to try to convince the world that exoticals are ugly, because they're hoping that it'll convince men to not give us the male gaze. And by the way, that's not going to work. That's not how life works. People don't base their entire life on YouTube videos, because some people actually have lives outside of YouTube. And by the way, if you look at who they're doxing and saying is me, if you look at all of those women are stunning and gorgeous. Those women are literal models. They have tens of thousands of followers on Instagram. They're women who are authors, women who are speakers, and it's okay, the insults that these women try to give are not actual insults. And I think what's happening is a lot of black women on YouTube, they're not used to content creators, especially anonymous content creators, coming on YouTube and actually being able to back up their shit. They're not used to content creators talking about pretty privilege, and those women actually have pretty privilege. They're not used to women talking about thin privilege, and then those women actually do have thin privilege. They're used to fraudulent scamming black women or men. I mean, think about it. A lot of the black YouTube leaders have been scammers. Look at Umar Johnson. They're used to people who are somehow scamming. They're used to content creators who end up going to jail and stuff like that. And so when they come across these content creators, especially a lot of us who are anonymous, we don't even have to prove our beauty. We don't have to prove our skin tone or our ambiguity or our hair texture. They're threatened by the fact that we are confident in our identities. That's really what it is. That's why they say, oh, you're delusional. Whenever somebody says you're delusional, that's actually a compliment because what they're saying is you are so strong in your belief. You're strong in what you believe in. You won't let anybody convince you to believe something different. You're delusional. That's a sense of having confidence. The law of assumption, for those of you who believe in universal laws and all that shit, it's so hilarious because you'll see black women saying exoticals are delusional, but then those same black women have manifestation content, they have law of attraction content, they're talking about astrology and the signs, the star signs and all that. And it's like, okay, so us being delusional, then that's a compliment according to your own talking point because it would mean that exoticals are following the law of assumption. We assume that we're pretty and we act like it. We assume that we have multicultural or multiracial privilege and so we act like it. We assume that we have a pedestal and we act like it. That's a compliment. Also, I find it interesting when women say that the exoticals are like fake and we're all liars and frauds and our story times are fake. If I'm a liar and fraud, I must be a pretty good one. I'm a very talented liar and fraud then because imagine having so much talent that you can make over 1,500 pieces of content, 1,500 talking points of a liar and fraud. I mean, that's pretty amazing. You have to admit that. And on my channel, I think I made over 1,000 videos at this point. On my Patreon, I have an additional, I think 300 or 400 pieces of content. So be sure to join the Pretty Girl Club if you're not already a part of that. By the way, the Patreon content is different from the members content. Members content is videos. Patreon content is audios. But if you join either one, you will have access to the Discord. That's where we spill all the tea. That's where we talk all of our shit. That's where all of the creepy articles come back and give me the intel. And it's funny because I saw this content creator that the Exotical sent me, Harmony Simone TV. She was like, none of the Exoticals show their real hair. And I find that interesting that a woman with purple lips and badly slicked down baby hair edges, taking photos standing right smack dab in the middle of the projects, literally sitting in a dusty living room with butterfly neck tats and a dingy sweatshirt and paintings that don't match. Notice how these are the women who want to have an intellectual discussion about the exotical experience. And I also want to talk about how a lot of the women who come against the exoticals, they're usually women who are lighter skinned. So this content creator herself can't even relate to the experiences of her own audience that she's trying to attract, which she's doing a bad job at. She's only at 4,000 subscribers. I mean, you would think that exposing Exoticals you would think that exposing me would get you like, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of views, that you'd get a ton of subscribers, a ton of Patreon subscribers. I mean, this channel has more than 250,000 views per month, hundreds of Patreon members, an entire members page. So you would think that talking about the Exoticals would gain you more traction, right? No. These types of women who talk about Exoticals, they're so untalented as content creators, they don't have any other content to talk about. Nobody gives a fuck about their actual channel. Nobody gives a fuck about who they actually are. Nobody actually stands them. That's also why content creator Paris Milan, that's why she was able to delete her channel. Nobody missed her channel. I don't see people making videos saying, hey, Paris Milan, come back to YouTube. When Paris Milan was beefing with me, I had less than 10 people come over to my channel and troll me. Less than 10. She was a content creator with 250,000 subscribers. So in the case of content creators like this one, Harmony Simone, you would expect for her to have a lot more traction, right? If she's so smart, if people genuinely believe what she has to say, and if she has such strong talking points, and if she truly did expose the exoticals, that would mean that you're a pretty good investigative journalist, right? If you're able to expose all these exoticals and, psychoanalyze all of us, that means you're probably a pretty talented creator. You could be kind of like BJ Investigates or like Sloan or somebody like that, right? But no, you still have this content creator. She can't even pass 20K. She can't create a Patreon. She can't create a members page and actually be successful. And that's why you see her sitting around shouting at the camera. I mean, the same thing happened to Blunt Girly, where she was trying to do a lot of the same content as me, apparently. She was trying to keep up with my creativity and my content creation. And that's something I've noticed as well. A lot of these women, they have a lack of creativity as content creators. They don't have a lot of talking points, and that's why a lot of them can only talk about exoticals. The same thing goes for a lot of the celebrity tea channels. Who do they focus on? They don't focus on unambiguous dark-skinned women. They don't focus on those types of celebrities. No, they only want to talk about like Ice Spice, Cardi B, Nicki Minaj. They want to talk about women who have some form of privilege in the Black community. And I've noticed that a lot of the women who hate on the exotical space, usually they are either women who are dusty. They always have this frumpy, dusty type of look about them. Because think about it. Remember, if you are pretty privileged, if you do have a pedestal in society, you'd be able to relate to my content. You don't have a problem with my content. If you actually do decenter men, then you won't be offended by my content because you can relate to it, right? So it's like, why are these women arguing and they're so upset that they can't relate? Well, it's because they're literally mad that they can't relate. They're mad that these women out here with nappier hair than them, they're mad that women who are darker than them, the dark-skinned exoticals, they're mad that women who are not white-passing biracials are actually out here receiving pedestals, telling our stories, creating YouTube channels. And so they have this mindset of, wait a minute, why not me? Why her and not me? Why is she the pretty girl who's light-skinned and I'm Harmony Simone TV, who is sitting in the middle of the projects? And then if you look at her page, she actually is the type of girl where she wants to do modeling. She has photos of herself in lingerie, trying to be kind of like this professional model aesthetic. So isn't that interesting that a lot of the exotical haters are women who they actually want to get into the same fields that a lot of the exoticals are in? They want to have the same type of feminine privilege that a lot of the exoticals have. And I've also noticed that too. Have you ever noticed that a lot of the women who make videos against exoticals, they're always these masculine women with like these raspy voices, smoking a blunt during their live streams and shit? And there's always this talking point where people will say, oh, well, if you're so pretty, then prove it. If the exoticals are so pretty, then why are they faceless? They need to show their faces. If the exoticals are so pretty, why are they wearing blonde highlights? They need to wear their natural hair texture. So like I said, that's how I know they're monocultural, because the monocultural Black community pedestalizes natural beauty. And when I say natural beauty, I'm talking about no makeup at all, no hair extensions at all, no hair dye at all, no beauty enhancements. The Black community as a culture demonizes beauty enhancements. That's a part of their monocultural experience. They talk about it on their channels all the time. They talk about how they get made fun of for wearing weaves and wigs, and how non-Black women can wear weaves and wigs and be admired and stuff. And so you can hear that trigger coming out in a lot of their content. So that's why they give us this talking point of, you guys need to show yourselves. You guys need to show your faces. And it's like, okay, when you actually have a pedestal in society, when you're actually treated special, you don't have to prove your beauty to anyone. So yes, people can come on YouTube and speak anonymously about their beauty experience and still gain subscribers. And so it's a type of privilege that they've never seen. And so that's truly what makes them mad, because they've spent their lives having to prove themselves. That's why they say, oh, well, if your face is so pretty, then prove it. If your hair is so pretty, then prove it. Well, it's because that's what they have to do. They have to show their natural hair in order to prove that they have hair, because there's a stereotype that a lot of Black women are bald-headed. Women like Harmony Simone TV have grown up in communities where they've been told that they are bald-headed scallywags, or that Black women are bald-headed scallywags. And so that's why they can't believe that somebody who has type 3 hair doesn't feel the need to prove herself, because they have this mindset where it's like, if I were you, I would be flexing my hair texture. So they're exposing the fact that they view natural, curlier hair textures as a flex. So do you see what I mean when I say it's not the exoticals that are the texturists? It's actually the monocultural Black people that are the most colorist, texturist, and featurist. Because they're literally trying to tell the exoticals to use texturism, featurism, or colorism to prove ourselves to them. Have you ever noticed that? They always have these talking points. Oh, well, you need to show yourself so you can prove how light-skinned you are. You need to show yourself so you can prove how pretty you are. You got to show yourself so you can prove if you benefit from featurism or not. Why do they want Exoticals to prove themselves? Well, because that's what they would do. If they were in our position, they would be flexing their features on us. They would be flexing their hair textures on us. So they're just exposing their own internalized inferiority complexes. So you can see that Harmony Simone, despite having a lighter skin tone in her case, she has still internalized this inferiority complex that a lot of dark-skinned black women have. And by the way, who is her core audience? Because she's doing that same thing that a lot of light-skinned saviors do. Lashid For You is another example of this. These are lighter-skinned women who want to build their channels off the backs of unambiguous dark-skinned black women. So it's like, okay, if you're so gung-ho about your own phenotype, Lashid or Harmony Simone, if you truly thought your own phenotype was pretty, you'd be complimenting women in the exotical space. You would be saying, oh, those women are beautiful. Especially if you think the exoticals are all monoracial, light-skinned black women, you would be complimenting them, right? So why are these women not complimenting the exoticals? Well, it's because they want unambiguous dark-skinned women to subscribe to their YouTube channels, because they know that that's the only audience they can capture, because those women themselves are monoculturally black. Those women were raised around all unambiguous women. And so they've also internalized those same inferiority complexes. And also, I've noticed another thing too. Sometimes light-skinned women come for the exoticals because they feel like their light skin tone gives them more power and authority to come against us. So, okay, that's proof that you're actually the internalized colors. It's not us that are the colors. It's you that's the internalized colorist, because you're basically promoting this talking point that because you are closer to whiteness than some of the exoticals, that you have more authority to speak on certain issues. You're basically saying that women who are dark-skinned exoticals are invalid. Their talking points are not valid because they're too dark. They're too dark to be mixed, or they're too dark to be exotic. That's another talking point that I hear from some of the women who troll the exotical space. Has anyone ever noticed that? That's always their main talking point. Well, your hair is too nappy for you to be an exotical. You're too dark to be an exotical. You're too dark to be mixed. You don't show yourself on YouTube. You don't show your face, so you're probably ugly. And some of these women who are trolling the exoticals, their lives are so depressing that they're literally lighting blunts during their videos when they're talking about exoticals. How depressing does your life have to be to the point where you constantly have to escape by getting high and cross-faded all the time? And I want to talk about that as well, because that's another phenomenon that I noticed in the monocultural black community as well. I've also noticed that in a lot of poor communities. A lot of poor communities where the people are leveled down, a lot of those people, they don't have any vision in their life. They don't have a sense of purpose or destiny. So instead of spending their money on not wearing dingy sweatshirts, instead of spending their money on getting furniture and paintings that actually match, instead of spending their money on moving out of the projects, they would rather spend their money on sparking up and using substances. Or, they're getting drunk on these live streams so they can have the courage to talk about exoticals. That's another thing as well. A lot of these women, they are actual cowards. They're cowards. They don't have the courage to come on YouTube sober and to talk shit about the exotical community. They're always coming on drunk. They're doing these drunk ass live streams. They're coming on cross-faded. Has anyone else noticed that? They're coming on drunk and high because, first of all, they don't want to be sober because their life is not worthy of experiencing in a sober state. They don't have anything in their real life that makes them, kind of high on life. They don't have actual courage to create their own talking points or build their own community. They don't have the social strategy to do that, or they're depressed because they missed out on their version of, a light-skin privilege or pretty privilege. If these women truly thought that they were pretty, they'd be able to relate to my content. So how come they can't relate? How come they're always sitting up in a dingy sweatshirt, smoking a blunt, or getting drunk and talking shit about exoticals? You will never see me promoting exoticals getting cross-faded. You'll never see me promoting that on this channel, because I believe in better for the women of this community. You have never seen me tell you to go out on the weekends and get drunk and high and to get faded, because we already know that a lot of people are targeting us naturally as exoticals. A lot of people want to put stuff in our drink. A lot of people want to see us in a state where we're so depressed that we have to escape by using substances or by smoking. So if you look at a lot of the exotical trolls, these are women who rely on substances in a lot of cases. If you look at some of their backgrounds, like in the case of Golden Goddess, she allegedly was abusive to her own children and went to jail over it. So if you look at these women's backgrounds, if you look at these women's lives, the women who are trolling the exoticals, why is it that they're always living these extremely dusty lives? Meanwhile, any of the exoticals that they try to dox, any of the women that they dox, these look like women who are just living normal lives. They're women who are going off to college, or they're doing photo shoots and stuff. They're going on vacation. They're creating vlogs or writing books or whatever. So it's like, okay, look at the difference in lifestyle. Even if you don't like my talking points, even if these women didn't like my talking points, you can't deny the difference in the lifestyles of exotical trolls versus exoticals. Look at the women who are exoticals. Look at like Black Exotical, Pretty in Between. These women are doing acting. These are corporate professional women. A lot of the women that they're doxing online, these women are creating TikTok channels. That actually we have some exoticals that do natural hair content on TikTok, but they conveniently gloss over those exoticals. They conveniently ignore those women. Notice how whenever they try to dox one of the exoticals and she's actually pretty, like, do you guys remember that video that Blunt Girly made where she was trying to dox all the exoticals? Notice how she couldn't say anything about any of those women's faces. She couldn't say anything about their face cards. She couldn't say anything about those women's bodies. She couldn't say anything about those women's natural hair texture and calling it ugly. Because she knew, even in the midst of her hateration, she knew that those women were all gorgeous. So that's truly what people are threatened by. They're threatened by the fact that the exoticals actually do have pretty privilege. They're threatened by the fact that the exoticals actually do have thin privilege as well. Because I noticed that's another thing that a lot of the trolls, they wouldn't dare speak on that. Because they know that these women, they actually are who they say they are. And they actually do have some form of privilege. Also, it is statistically impossible for all of my content to be incorrect. It is impossible for all of my content to be invalid. That's not possible. Nobody's right about everything and nobody's wrong about everything. So I don't mind if people disagree with some of my talking points, but you can't deny that I have at least some talking points that are valid. Also, if you look at some of these trolls' videos, these women are literally, they're sitting in a dusty apartment, sparking up a blunt, swatting flies out of their face. How dusty does your living scenario have to be to where you can't even record a video? You're only 37 seconds in and you're already swatting flies out of your face. Also, in Harmony Simone TV's case, she tagged herself as the most hated. Sorry, sis, I'm actually the most hated. You do not receive as much hate as me. I am the queen. I am YouTube's favorite villain. I am actually the one that everyone loves to hate here on YouTube. But a minute after sparking her blunt, this girl is over here. She's now pouring alcohol into a glass. So let's just be honest here. Think about the types of women. Think about the type of lifestyle you have to be living if you're sitting online publicly, showing your face, and getting crossfaded. These are not leveled up women. These women do not have a lot going for themselves in real life. A woman who actually had maybe like a corporate job or a career, or, she has some sort of business, or maybe she's a front-facing public figure in some way. Do you see them going on live streams in front of a couple of hundred people, in front of a couple thousand people, willing to get crossfaded just in front of a couple thousand people? Just so they can talk about exoticals? You have to go through all that just so you can talk about the exotical channels? You have to put all these different substances in your body. And also, it's like a lot of these women, they have nothing to live for. Like I said, they have nothing to live for. They don't actually have anything going for themselves in life, because any woman who is smart and strategic would never film herself getting crossfaded on a YouTube video, especially when she has a very small struggle channel, no Patreon, no members page, no online courses. That's the behavior of somebody who comes from more of an uneducated, more of a level down type of background. And that's fine. If that's your background, that's fine. But do you see the difference in how articulate a lot of the exoticals are versus the women who are talking shit? So it's like, who's more likely to be good at discussing leveling up? Women who are educated, women who are actually doing acting or they're doing their passions, they're doing modeling or whatever, women who have online businesses, or random women sitting around in dingy sweatshirts, sparking blunts, and then pouring some alcohol a minute after that. It's like, ma'am, is the blunt that bad to where you couldn't get enough high off of your first couple of puffs? Now you also got to drink something as well? And speaking of alcoholics, I want to talk about how one of Chrissy's own subscribers mentioned a couple of weeks ago that Chrissy herself was engaged to a high functioning alcoholic for 8 years. So it's like, look at the lifestyles of these women who talk the most shit about Exoticals. They either are women who have to get crossfaded just to create content. I don't have to get crossfaded to do anything, sweetheart. I'm naturally gifted. And isn't that interesting? They try to come for the Exoticals' appearances, or they try to say like, oh, these women are just dark-skinned. First of all, I don't understand what's so wrong about somebody being dark-skinned, but okay. They'll try to say, oh, these women are dark-skinned. Oh, these women have type 4 hair. Again, I don't understand what's wrong with having type 4 hair, but it's like, one thing you can't deny about the Exotical space is that these are some very talented women over here. These are some talented, creative women over here. Do you know how consistent a lot of the Exoticals are? Do you know how much creativity and how many ideas you have to even make 100 videos, 500 videos, 1,000 videos, all on the same talking point? Go look at Black Exotical's channel. Consistent as fuck. Pretty in between. Consistent as fuck. The exotic brown skin. Super consistent. So when you look at these women who are trying to hate on the Exoticals, not only do they not have the ideas to sustain their content, in Chrissy's case, she had to hide her content. She said, oh, hell no, I'm not going to let this content stay up on YouTube. This content is not even that serious. I got to delete this content because it's not that great. Think about why somebody would remove some of their content. It's because it's not that great. It's not actually helping their channel. That's why people archive their content. It's because it was low quality. It was either low quality or the talking points that they had. They don't want their old talking points to be exposed. And so that's why I was right when it came to Chrissy when I said that she would never be able to re-release any of her old content because she can't handle the smoke that would come from me. And none of these women can handle the smoke of my actual talking points. That's why they have to get crossfaded before they can even begin talking, because they already know they're making a mistake. They're like, oh shit, I'm already about to fuck my channel up. So let me just get crossfaded. Let me spark up a blunt or two, and then let me drink some wine or something. And then hopefully I can articulate myself. I don't need to use substances in order to articulate myself on YouTube. And then in the case of Chrissy, she was talking all this shit about she wanted marriage, or she's encouraging dark-skinned Black women to get married or whatever. And then she tried to say that, oh, she doesn't want marriage. But then it comes out that at one point she was engaged for 8 years to a high-functioning alcoholic, unambiguous Black man. So these women are surrounded by drugs and alcohol. They're surrounded by the same dusty Black men that they say that we are like attracting. Also, why do they always have to bring men into the conversation? The fact that people are calling Exoticals pick-me's is laughable to me, because it's like, oh my God. So even if I make decentering men content, even if I do not interact with male YouTubers, I'm not over here trying to collab with male YouTubers. I'm not trying to collab with male Exoticals. But no matter what we do, we're going to be called pick-me's. You know why? It's because even though we decenter men, we still get the male gaze. We still have male content creators making content about us, Exoticals. I still have male creators who actually support my channel. They are a part of the members page. They're not in the Discord, but some of them do still financially support my channel. So shout out to you guys. I really appreciate it. But I've noticed that in my case, if I comment on a channel where a man created the video, then like I'm a pick-me. So it's like, we can't comment on channels that are created by men. We can't talk to men at all. Anything we do, if there's any sort of male gaze around here, we're going to get called pick-me's. And by the way, I don't really care about name calling. That's not a big deal to me because my lifestyle aligns with what I talk about on here. That's why I've been able to make over 1,000 videos. There's a reason why I don't make videos about like escorting, for example, because I have not done it. So I try to stick to talking points where I've actually like have experience with it, or I can talk about my life. But the women who come against Exoticals, they're living dusty lifestyles. And by the way, some of Chrissy's own subscribers also said that she allegedly was into thugs at one point. Like actual, like unambiguous black men who carry pew pews and stuff like that, and that she said it was like sexy or whatever. So, and then Shay Sade, she posted a video recently, and then of course Chrissy flagged it down. But she posted a video where Chrissy was on a live stream with an unambiguous black man, and it's like, okay, so it's interesting how the Exoticals are pick-me's, but if you look at these women who make videos against Exoticals, they're always talking about the male gaze. They're fiending for the white male gaze. They're fiending over non-black men. They're begging to be represented by black men. They're over here attempting to build their YouTube channels alongside unambiguous black men. Yet the Exoticals are somehow the pick-me's. Do you see their talking points falling apart right there? And I also want to talk about people calling us skin bleachers, because I noticed that people called me a skin bleacher ever since I made my Paris Milan video. By the way, the video is still up. The video is literally still up right now. It's the video where I showed an actual picture of my actual hand. And I talked about glutathione, MSM, and all of the different methods that people can use to brighten their skin tone. So people took my content and they created a narrative that myself and the rest of the Exoticals, that we are all bleachers, so like we're dark skinned or whatever. We're dark skinned, unambiguous black women who became white. Have you ever noticed that any of the channels who are trying to expose Exoticals as being bleachers, they never have any actual proof that those women are bleachers? The only thing they say is, oh, this person, she said that she takes these pills. First of all, NAC or whatever pill that Pretty In Between was talking about on her channel, that doesn't make you into a white person. That's not how that works. If that's how that works, then anybody who drank fruit smoothies would become white, because NAC or pills like glutathione is found in fruits. So are you saying that fruits, if you eat fruits, you're a skin bleacher? Or, like they're constantly moving the goalpost as to what they consider to be a skin bleacher. And I've also noticed they will accuse anybody of being a skin bleacher depending on how their photos look. And that's another thing as well. Have you ever noticed that they will study people's photos, and then if your photo looks dark, then they're going to say, oh, you must be a skin bleacher because your photo looks dark here and then it looks more light skinned there. But then if it's a dark skinned person like Kelly Rowland, where their photos are drastically different, I mean, going from literally dark chocolate to passing a paper bag test. And I have the proof on my channel. That video is still up. Be sure to check out my Kelly Rowland video. So you'll have these dark-skinned women that have actual drastic changes in their skin tone, like on their photos, and it'll be Getty Images. But then they'll say, oh no, that's just lighting or whatever. It's not a big deal. But then when it comes to the Exoticals, the first argument they make is, oh, we're all using filters, and all of our pictures are fake. It's like, okay, so if all the pictures of these Exoticals are fake and filtered, then how can you argue that they're a bleacher then if it's a filter? Couldn't it be a filter that's making your skin more tan or making your skin more bright? Why is the conclusion always, oh, this person must be a bleacher? Also, let's make the argument that all of us Exoticals are bleachers and that we're all just, unambiguous dark skin. Okay, now what? Like, what was the purpose of calling that out? Because if an unambiguous woman is a bleacher, wouldn't you want to kind of help that unambiguous woman and be like, oh, wow, you were beautiful when you were dark skinned? Because calling an actual bleacher, like making fun of somebody and saying, oh, well, haha, you bleached your skin, that's not going to make them want to become back dark skinned again. That's not how that works. Usually, if you shame somebody, if a woman is truly an unambiguous woman and she bleached herself and she is getting shamed or bullied by unambiguous women, that's just going to make her want to stay bleached. That's just going to make her want to bleach even more. And that's another thing, too. They'll make this argument that, oh, so-and-so is not that light-skinned. So-and-so is a bleacher who's not that light-skinned. Okay, all you're doing is convincing that woman to bleach herself even more. And then they'll say things like, oh, well, I guess her hair is type 3, but, it's not that loose. Okay, if that woman truly is relaxing her hair, all you're doing is convincing her to get an even better relaxer. So what they don't realize is that by hating on these women, they're actually giving them the blueprint on how to social climb in a better way. And also, if all of the exoticals are truly frauds, then why are these women so threatened? Why are we pushing women into drinking and smoking blunts and getting crossfaded just to make response videos to us? Like, why are we triggering women that much to the point where they got to take a swig? Like, do you see how much social power we actually have? That's how I know that they don't even believe what they're saying about us. They don't even believe that themselves, because if they truly did, they wouldn't be triggered. They wouldn't care. They would just view us as being irrelevant. And by the way, they also don't realize that by them talking about the exoticals, they're actually helping our channels to grow. They're helping our Patreons to grow. I just hit, I think, 35K. And I haven't even been making as much content as I used to. So the fact that I'm able to even be growing like this without having made as much content, to the point where people are accusing me of buying, they accuse me of buying subscribers, and they said I bought all my subscribers, I bought all my views and everything. So it's like, okay, so that's proof that you really do notice that we are successful then. We must be successful then. If you are so triggered to the point where you're like, oh no, that there's no way they can be growing like that. There's no way that that many new Exotical channels are being created. It must be fake. It must be Exoticals United making all these channels herself. Because that's another rumor, by the way. They say that I'm actually all the other creators and that I'm just using different voice changers. But another talking point that I heard is that they say that I'm stealing people's stories. You know, all my story times that I tell, anything that I tell is false, and that I stole it from somebody who sent me an email. First of all, I don't actually talk a lot about my personal story. I don't tell a lot of my story times because people try to use my story times so they could dox me. And by the way, if people were able to successfully dox me, like, let's go with the argument that I've been doxxed. If people are able to successfully dox me based off my stories, that would prove that my stories are actually true. It wouldn't prove that they're false. It would prove that they're actually true, because it would mean that you could connect the dots and connect back to an actual person. So that would mean that I'm actually legit then. So it's like, okay, which one is it? Are my stories legit, or are they all lies? Because if you make the argument that every story I tell is a lie, then that would mean that whoever they're doxing saying it's me would be false. So do you see how these women don't even have any logic? And then another talking point that I heard is, oh, the Exoticals, they have the same insecurities as unambiguous dark-skinned black women. And it's like, okay, so then wouldn't that make my content relatable then? Wouldn't that validate my content then, if that were true? If all of us across the board, biracial, mix, whatever, if we all have the exact same experiences, exact same insecurities, well then that means that my talking points are correct. And also, why would you bully someone if they're insecure? So it's hilarious because they accuse me of bullying women for being insecure, but then they attempt to bully me for being insecure. Isn't that hilarious? Also, we never said in the exotical space that we don't have any insecurities at all. I think that the issue is these women are mad that they can't weaponize our insecurities. They're mad that they can't weaponize our insecurities. They're mad that we love ourselves despite our insecurities. So for example, with my beluga content, I've talked several times about how I was a beluga. I identified as a beluga at one point. Yes, I was never obese or whatever. I was technically like a slim thick. Okay, but that's beluga for me because I was used to being super small. So they're literally trying to bully the exoticals for our authenticity. They want to weaponize our vulnerability. They want to weaponize our authenticity against us. And that's because they come from communities where being vulnerable and, you know, sharing things about yourself, it was demonized. It's viewed as soft. You know, that's viewed as being soft. It's viewed as being a crybaby or whatever. And so that's why they say that our channels are like light-skinned tears and all this, even though all the exoticals aren't light-skinned. But and also, according to their talking points, none of us are light-skinned because we're all bleachers. But they call it us having light-skinned tears. And it's like, okay, so you get to cry your dark-skinned tears. You can cry your unambiguous tears. You can come online and spark up a blunt and get cross-faded and cry your tears, because you're mad that I have a YouTube channel. So you get to cry your tears, but then when it comes to the exoticals telling our stories, you're mad at us for crying tears? And then they love giving this talking point of, you're not a real exotical. The fact that people are fighting. You got unambiguous black women right now fighting over the term exotical. They're gatekeeping the term exotical, the same phrase that they used to bully me before I started this channel. The same phrase that was used to bully us is now a phrase that they're trying to gatekeep and say, oh no, you don't count as a real exotical. The real exoticals are these other women over here. You didn't make the cut. You don't get the exotical trophy. And it's like, ma'am, do you realize that you're still putting us on a pedestal? Also, no matter what they do or say, people are not going to stop watching our channels. Our channels are still going to stay here. We're not going to go down to 0 subscribers and 0 views. So no matter what they say, we're still here. Our community is still here and our channels are still valid. And when it comes to the natural hair argument, like for the people who say, oh, well, they're wearing clip-ins in their videos or whatever, it's like, okay, are you keeping that same energy with the millions of unambiguous dark-skinned black women with 4C hair who never show their 4C hair on camera? Are you keeping the same energy with them? Or is it only light-skinned women with 4C hair? Because I've noticed that hypocrisy as well. They want to hold the exoticals to a standard that they don't even hold other black women to. They don't hold other dark-skinned, unambiguous black women to the same standard. And then they'll say, oh, well, you have to only show yourself looking as natural as possible because you talk about beauty. And they don't realize that there are many different types of beauty. There's natural beauty, there's enhanced beauty, there's the earthy type of beauty. Like, there are so many different types of beauty, but they have a scarcity mindset when it comes to beauty because a lot of them grew up not having it, according to their talking points. So they feel like if you don't meet their internalized standard of beauty, which is clearly looking more white passing, I guess, having type 2 hair, I guess, and I guess having light eyes or something, I don't know. If you don't meet their standard of beauty for an exotical, which is being as ambiguous as possible, if you're a black passing mixed woman, you get rejected. You know, they're like, oh no, you're not an exotical. You're just black, as if being just black is an insult. And they'll be like, oh, these women are not who they say they are. Okay, then why are people still watching then? And also, since when do they care about people not being who they say they are? The black community loves frauds. The black community loves scammers. The black community loves colorist, texturist, and featurist mixed women. So it's interesting how they have these situational ethics. So suddenly they want to come out and be the moral police. Oh, and by the way, when did the exoticals say that all of us are good girls, or, you know, we're these Christian, you know, we have all these amazing morals and stuff, and everything we do is just by the book? You literally got women who are cross-faded on their YouTube videos trying to police the exoticals' morality. And it's like, ma'am, you are no angel yourself. You got women who are literally fighting the demons of addiction right now, as we speak. Fighting addiction demons, fighting their addiction to blunts, fighting their addiction to alcohol, fighting their addiction to alcoholic men, in Chrissy's case. And then they have the audacity to try to police the exoticals' morals. Also, since we're talking about morals and frauds and like who's fake and who's a scammer, the entire capitalistic system in and of itself is a scamming type of system. So are you keeping the same energy for the rest of the business owners in the United States? Why is it that anytime it's a black or black adjacent woman, suddenly you want to say that woman is a scammer? And it's like, okay, if you want to call people scammers, at least have proof. Like Umar Johnson, okay, fine. You can say that that's proof because he said he was going to start the school. It's been like 15 years, he hasn't started the school. Okay, fine, that's proof. But when it comes to exoticals, notice how they try to say, oh, she's wearing makeup, so she's not that pretty, so she's a scammer. Has anyone noticed that they try to give this argument that the exoticals are catfish? Also, with us being faceless, are they going to keep the same energy for the faceless black women like Chrissy and Blunt Girly? And by the way, Chrissy's alleged photo has been leaked, by the way. So it's like, are they going to keep the same energy for women of their own group who have faceless YouTube channels? No, they only want to police the YouTube channels of the women that they are threatened by. They don't want anyone to admire us. They're mad because we receive admiration, whether our hair is real or not, whether we're dark or not, whether we're bleached or not. And by the way, notice how none of them can define what their standards are for bleaching. So is using acid bleaching? Citric acid, lactic acid, kojic acid, Are those forms of bleaching? Because if so, then you need to admit that Paris Milan is in fact a bleacher and that she did in fact sell bleaching soap then, because she was selling kojic acid soap. So if you're saying that kojic acid makes you a skin bleacher, then Paris Milan is a bleacher then. So notice how they pick and choose who they call bleachers. If you're light skinned and you're doing something, you're a bleacher. If you're light skinned and you're taking NAC, you're a bleacher. But if you're dark skinned and you're taking NAC, it's just skincare. And by the way, I do have, I haven't made the video yet, but I did follow up with the woman who was a bleacher. I did follow up with her, the one who went from like the Fenty 400s to the Fenty 200s. So I'm going to have to release that video soon. But in the case of bleaching, why do these women pretend like they care about women who are actually bleaching? There are rumors that they say everybody's a bleacher. They say Beyonce's a bleacher, Nicki Minaj is a bleacher, Rihanna's a bleacher. So it's like, okay, all these women are bleachers and you guys are still fans of them. You guys still listen to their music. In fact, they're more popular today than they were before. Rihanna's a billionaire now. Beyonce, she's still making music. So it's like, they don't actually even care about who's a bleacher or not because they're still going to pedestalize that woman even if she is bleached. They still follow Kelly Rowland, who I believe was definitely bleaching at some point. Because you don't go from ebony complexion to lighter than a paper bag. That's not natural. So these women follow bleachers all the time. They stan bleachers. And then also they can't give a standard for what they consider a bleacher. They can't tell you how to tell if somebody's a bleacher. How would you be able to tell if somebody's a bleacher unless you yourself are also a bleacher? Like, I can't look at somebody and say, oh, there's a bleacher, unless I have pictures of them being super dark-skinned or something, like an unfiltered Getty image that's not color corrected. So it's like these women, they're just doing anything they can to discredit a person. They're trying to have shock value so they can get views for their channel. You know, they want to have shock value because they themselves don't have any social power, so they feel like their only social power comes from exposing someone who is the center of attention. And by the way, I just saw Blunt Girlie's members video. I don't know why she thinks that I'm blocked from her members page. Somebody tell her that I can still see her members page, okay? But on her most recent video, she admitted that she's not married. Okay, so that's proof that she lied about being married to a millionaire biracial man, and she said that she was raised around millionaires and billionaires when we all know that she was an ex-worker from Oakland. You know, she told me that. I don't want to have to show any emails or anything like that because I actually felt sorry for Blunt Girlie, which is why I only did one video, even though she did about 6 or 7 videos about me. Okay, so she's an ex-worker from Oakland. She said at the 3-minute and 21-second mark on her members page that she knows how to vet for a husband because she has been proposed to several times. And she said that, you know, she knows how men work. But it's like, if you're married, if you truly have this millionaire biracial husband like what you had told me, then why are you telling your members that, you know, you're only qualified because you've been proposed to? Being proposed to and then actually being married to a millionaire are two different things. So if you're curious, please subscribe to Blunt Girlie's members page. And then check out her video that's titled Traits That Quality Men Pay Attention to When Vetting for a Wife. So at the 3-minute and 21-second mark, she's exposing the fact that she is not married, like what she had originally said. It's hilarious how people call me a pick-me. So I'm a pick-me, yet you've got Blunt Girlie on the internet pretending to be married, lying about being married, pretending to be married to a biracial man, pretending to be married to a millionaire biracial man, trying to prove that she has a man by playing an audio clip of his voice in her other members' videos. Yet, this man has never claimed her. You never hear the man come on here and say, yeah, my name is so-and-so, I'm a biracial millionaire, and Blunt Girlie is my wife, and I protect and provide for her. She doesn't have to pay any bills. You never hear that. So I'm the pick-me, yet you got Chrissy she was engaged to an alcoholic black man for 8 years, and then you got Blunt Girlie, who's straight up lying about being married to a biracial millionaire. And trying to have audio recordings of his voice and play it on her members page. Yet the Exoticals are pick-me's. And what is it with women qualifying themselves based on how many times they've been proposed to? That's being male-centered. You're basically saying, I'm qualified to talk about this because men want me. Men propose to me, so that's why I have the authority to speak on this. Okay, Yet the Exoticals are pick-me's. Yet you're over here announcing how many men proposed to you. A man proposing to you, that's not a flex. And also, let's say 3 men proposed to you and you said no all 3 times. Okay, so then that means 3 Dusties proposed to you. That's why you said no, ma'am. You said no because he was Dusty. So all you're doing is revealing that you attract all you're doing is revealing that you attract Dusties and that you attract these men where you are rejecting them. So that's not a flex. Also, why is it the women who they brag about how many times they've been proposed to, but then they've never been married, or in Blunt Gurley's case, they lie about being married to a biracial millionaire, and they're using that to qualify themselves. And then also in Blunt Gurley's case, she was coming for Shira Seven, who is a multiracial woman who is one of the only creators who actually tries to help her audience. She's one of the only creators that actually showed who the man was. She actually brought him on for a stream. She brought him on to several videos. She actually told the entire story, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Do you see this pattern where there's always an unambiguous woman hating on Exoticals? She's hating on our vulnerability and our authenticity. She tries to use our own stories against us. But then if you look at her, in reality, she just wants to take our place. She wants to be a content creator talking about marriage. You know, she wants to have a bigger YouTube channel. She wants to gain more views. She wants to gain more people on her members page. And then at the 9-minute and 13-second timestamp of Blunt Gurley's video, she says that in order to attract a husband, you must be able to cook, clean, and show that you like kids. But I thought Blunt Gurley was married to a biracial millionaire/billionaire. So she wouldn't be cooking and cleaning, right? Because she would have maids. She would have maids, she would have nannies, she would have people helping her. So why is she even talking about that as one of her standards? So do you see what I mean? How they try to say that all of the Exoticals are frauds. The Exoticals, we're all liars. But then if you look at these women's own content, they're literally exposing in their own content that they don't even live the lifestyle that they're promoting. One thing about the Exoticals is you can't call us ugly, you can't call us dumb, and you cannot say that we are not living the lifestyles that we are promoting. Because, like I said, in the Exotical space, you got corporate women, you got women who are doing acting, women who are doing modeling, women who have hair channels and stuff. So there actually is a higher level of authenticity on the Exotical channels. That's why you see a lot of women starting channels and becoming a part of like the Exotical space. It's because they know that this space is more authentic. We're not afraid to show the good, the bad, and the ugly. But then you have these other creators like Chrissy or like Blunt Gurley, where they try to come to you with this advice. They market themselves as advice channels. But then they have no proof of the actual lifestyle they're living. I don't recommend following an anonymous advice channel. This is why I say I am not an advice channel. I'm just kind of letting my thoughts flow in my content, and we are kind of bouncing our thoughts off of each other. I've always said that the Exotical space is more like a think tank. So it's like all of us are kind of making content. We're kind of asking each other, hey, this happened to me. Did this happen to you? And we're just comparing notes. That's all this is in the Exotical space. We're not telling people what to do. But you got creators like in Blunt Gurley's case or in Chrissy's case. These are unambiguous black women who are trying to tell other unambiguous black women what to do. But then their own lifestyles don't line up with that. Chrissy was with a high-functioning alcoholic. Blunt Gurley is with a man who won't even claim her. We all know that she's an ex-worker from Oakland, according to what she told me. She was doing different forms of ex-work, and now, ever since she started trying to randomly beef with me, she started a one-sided beef with me. To this day, I actually have no idea, still, why Blunt Gurley ever began beefing with me. If anybody could tell me that would be great. She just randomly made a live stream about me one day, coming for me, and you know that's how her beef started with me. But she is trying to promote this narrative that she's living such a classy lifestyle. In my last video where I was clapping back against haters, we showed actual clips of her living space or like her haul that she did, and she spent about, I think it was like $36 on Bath and Body Works. So if you're married to a biracial millionaire/billionaire from Oakland, and by the way, I don't know of many billionaires that live in Oakland, so that already doesn't make sense. But if you're married to someone who's a millionaire, why would he just spend $36 on you? And also, if you're so high value and attracting proposals, why do you have to reject the proposals then? If you're attracting a true high value man, you wouldn't reject it, right? You would say yes to the proposal. And why is it that on YouTube, she was trying to promote this narrative when she was talking about the Exotical? She's like, oh, I'm married. I've been around millionaires and billionaires, and my husband is biracial. Yet we don't know what her husband does for a living. She won't claim him as her husband on her actual members page. He never claimed her as his wife on her members page. She never tells the story, the entire love story of how they got engaged and all that. Same thing with Chrissy. Part of why she deleted her old content was because she doesn't want it to be exposed that, number one, she was straight up bullying light-skinned black women in particular, especially if they had type 4 hair. And also, Chrissy doesn't want people to know about her history, where she was literally with high-functioning alcoholics. So again, look at the pattern of the Exotical haters. There are women who are getting crossfaded on their videos. They have to get crossfaded to even address the Exoticals. There are women who are coming outside in bonnets and taking pictures right smack dab in the middle of the projects. There are women who are trying to take photos to look like Victoria's Secret models while coming for content creators who look like Victoria's Secret models. So it's a form of projection. A lot of these women, they just want our place. They want to be us. That's what it is. And that's why I say most people want to date us or create us. Because in Blunt Girlie's case, she wants to date a biracial man, obviously. She wants to date a light-skinned mixed man. And then in Chrissy's case, she said that she dates white men and Hispanic men. Okay, so no wonder you have smoke for a woman who has a black, white, and Hispanic ancestry. No wonder you have smoke for a woman like that then. No wonder you have smoke for multiracial women. You're trying to be a multicultural woman yourself. And in Lasheed's case, she's a woman that talks about the Exoticals a lot. Lasheed is morbidly obese, so of course she's mad. I make beluga content. She's exactly the demographic that I'm talking about. She has the exact mindset that I'm talking about. In the time that she spent creating live streams about Exoticals, she could have been going to the gym. She could have been meal prepping and actually losing weight instead of sitting there with her 600-pound self talking shit about women who actually are living and promoting healthy lifestyles. Why would somebody get mad about decentering men, promoting a healthy lifestyle, creating a safe space for women to tell their stories? Why would someone be mad about that? Also, I came across this comment on YouTube. It was on Chrissy's YouTube channel because, yet again, she is arguing with her own audience. By the way, that's another bad social climbing tactic that a lot of these women have. Whenever they try to hate on Exoticals, all they're doing is attracting a bunch of haters to be their subscribers. So anybody who subscribes to a channel because it's hating on another channel, that type of subscriber is going to end up hating on that creator. I've seen it happen several times. That's why a lot of people end up like deleting their channels, or they want to switch topics, kind of like what Chrissy did because she got fed up with her own audience. She spent over 10 years trying to teach dark-skinned black women how to level up. 10 years later, not only did they not level up, but instead they all just went on to TikTok and talked about how much their dating lives sucked. But this comment says, Exoticals United gained more subs from beefing with you than you ever gained from beefing with her. Every time she wants to inflate her subscriber count, she starts beef, and it works for her. This is correct, by the way. I've gained, I think, over 10,000 subscribers. Like, every time people make videos about me, it actually makes my subscribers and my Patreon and everything go up. That's a part of how I was able to go full-time at only 6,000 subscribers. It's because my views and the amount of people who end up financially supporting this channel, it goes up every time a big creator comments on me. By the way, I saw a video where Queen Chama a while back, she said the most she's ever made on her YouTube was like, I think $3,000 or $4,000, which is crazy to me. The most I've ever made in 1 month is $9,000. So for my channel to be that small, I know $9,000 is not rich or whatever, but for me to be that small and to have that much money coming from my Patreon, my YouTube, and members page, that's amazing. You know, that's why I say I really hope that as many of you start channels as possible, because I want the Exoticals to get a piece of the pie before we go mainstream. So you still have time. You know, we're not mainstream yet. I would say if people are this triggered by me at 30K subscribers, imagine once I hit 50K, once I hit 100K. Once I hit 200K, 500K, I'm not going anywhere. And part of the reason why I went full time on YouTube was because I was looking at my analytics and I was looking at my projections for this channel. This channel is going to continue growing over the next 10 years. It is going to become, over the next 10 to 15 years, this channel will be kind of like how Shira7 or Kevin Samuels or somebody like that is. Kind of a very popular, controversial channel. That's the path that this channel is going down. So I can see why people are so threatened. But this girl says she starts beef and it works for her. For you, it is a trap. And yes, me starting beef, it does work out very well for me. I don't have a problem with confrontation. I'm an ENTJ, so I'm very good at debates. I'm very good at confrontation. I'm very good at going back and forth. I'm very emotionally resilient. I never get tired. So if I can make 1,000 videos where they're not about confrontation, that means I could easily make 1,000 videos that are confrontation if I wanted to. I don't consider it to be a real confrontation, though, because it's just the internet. But this person said to Chrissy, for you it is a trap. You're sabotaging your own channel growth for clicks. Even her bootlickers like, I don't know, I'm assuming it's Blunt Girly. Even her bootlickers like Blunt Girly lose subs after feuds with her. She is the one winning, and you are the one playing into her hands. Anyone can run their platform however they want, just as anyone can critique it. But when you feed your audience what they want, make sure you're not feeding yourself into a dead end, because that is exactly where you are headed. Yeah, it is. Because what talking points does Chrissy really have that are applicable today? I think that back like 10 years ago, I think she did a good job talking about how the pro-black movement was pro-black male. So kind of her black feminist leaning talking points were better back then. And I think that really all she did was bring awareness to the fact that nobody wanted dark-skinned black women, which is not true, but it's like that was the whole agenda of her channel. Her whole channel is based on, or it was based on, who do NBA players date that are black? Who do NFL players date? Oh, they don't choose dark-skinned black women. And now she has shifted her focus to competing with exoticals or competing with non-black women so you can attract non-black men. But this person says, your subscribers watch and move on. You are the one who does the compiling, the commentating, and the talking into that mic. Yeah, that is true. I've noticed that Chrissy's subscribers, they're not as passionate because, like I said, name 5 channels that have started their channel based on Chrissy. Name 5. I'll wait. Name 10 channels that Chrissy collaborates with and that she still collaborates with to this day. I'll wait. And by the way, I've noticed that ever since I've called out the division amongst a lot of black women, I've seen a lot of black female YouTubers trying to collaborate with other YouTubers now, which is actually a good thing. But this person is right when they say that Chrissy doesn't really have as much of a community as what the Exoticals have. And that's because Chrissy herself, she argues with her own audience. She kind of speaks from this position of being on a high horse as if she has more knowledge than the rest of her subscribers. And that is a marketing tactic. That's a part of capitalism, right? You convince your clients, you convince your customers that you are the best and that you have the most knowledge. Don't go to them, come to me. I'm the one that can help you the most because I'm a dark-skinned black woman that has leveled up and I date white men and Hispanic men, as Chrissy has said. So she's bragging about dating the men that Exoticals are mixed with. White, Hispanic. But this person says, you're the one who does the compiling, the commentating, and the talking into that mic. But maybe you enjoy it as it feeds that Blackistan trauma bond. What do I know? I'm not a YouTuber like you. Yeah, Chrissy does make a lot of trauma bonding content. She makes a lot of content about how everybody else is colorist and how you have to compete with everybody. But this person says, saying my channel is not growing is laughable. I don't know who this person is. But they said, you had 228 subs earlier this year. Now you're stuck at 231K. I mean, yeah, she has been stuck. Usually channels that are that big, like 250,000, I mean, she has, 10 times the amount of subscribers as me? So I expect her to be getting 10 times the amount of income, 10 times the amount of views, 10 times the amount of subscribers per month. Everything that she has on her channel should be 10x of what mine is. But when you pull up the Social Blade analytics, it's not 10x. And I will say Social Blade, it does have its flaws. It's not really that accurate, but she is definitely declining in terms of her relevance because I've seen a lot of dark-skinned women who say they don't even know who she is. So she doesn't know how to tap into a lot of the millennial and Gen Z audience. That's clear that she doesn't know how to tap into that. I do think her relevance is going down as time goes on, and that's why she's had to pivot her content. That's why she's hating on Exotical. She's mad because I am joining the colorism conversation, and she doesn't like it because she used to dominate the colorism conversation 10 years ago, back when it was popular for dark-skinned black women to say they're at the bottom. Back when it was popular for dark-skinned black women to be the most insecure women on the planet, Chrissy was the queen of that. So that used to be popular, but now that people are educating themselves and decentering men, Chrissy's content is no longer really needed because, women are finding self-esteem. Dark-skinned women are finding their self-esteem in other ways besides, just obsessing over what black men are doing. And so that's why Chrissy has been relegated into the celebrity commentary abyss. She's been relegated into the celebrity reaction abyss. And the difference with my channel, I'm technically a variety channel. Like in the algorithm, I'm a variety channel. So depending on the video, it'll go into a different part of the algorithm. But one of the worst niches is actually the celebrity niche, the celebrity tea, or kind of the celebrity reaction niche. So that's why you don't see me making those videos every single day. I try to diversify my content, but with Chrissy, she can't diversify her content. What else is she going to talk about? Her audience only wants to hear her talk shit about people, because that's what her audience thrives on, is more so like negativity or like beefing with people and stuff. So she doesn't really have any talking points anymore because the colorism talking points are more outdated. Her dating strategy talking points are outdated. Plus, she was engaged to a black alcoholic for 8 years. So it's like, okay, her credibility in that area is not working because she calls herself an advice channel. And it's like, well, what are you giving these women advice for? Because the man you were with for the longest was black. And I thought you guys, a lot of black women now are swirlers. Most black women want non-black men now. And if they do want a black man, they're more likely to listen to a creator like Shira7, who is with a black man, as opposed to somebody like Chrissy. But this girl says, maybe you enjoy it as it feeds the Blackistan trauma bond. What do I know? I'm not a YouTuber like you. She said, you had 228K subs. Now you're stuck at 231K. That is your growth. Social Blade might not be perfect, but the pattern is clear. From December 28th to April 28th, you gained next to nothing. Growth was dead for months. You rely on celebrity gossip to bait a largely inactive audience because your content is not compelling enough on its own. That is a fact. Yeah, a lot of these creators who talk the most shit about Exoticals, they have inactive audiences. That's why they have to talk shit about Exoticals. That's why they have to run their channel solely based on beef. And don't get me wrong, beefing is fun. It can be fun. But in my case, I try not to base all of my content on beef. That's why I have over 1,000 videos. Because I want my content to be binge-worthy. It is binge-worthy. I create my content and all of my playlists so that you can come on my channel as a new subscriber and binge 50 videos on decentering men or whatever. So when it comes to beef, eventually people are going to get bored. And it's like, you can only dox the Exotical so much. Like, oh, this is what this person looks like. Okay, now what? Usually people, they might be shocked for 5 minutes, or they might feel entertained. They might laugh for a few minutes, but then they're just going to go about their day. And they're not even going to subscribe. That's not going to make them purchase your subscriptions. That's not going to make them sign up for the Patreon or join your members page. So that's another bad social climbing strategy. Chrissy seems to be the queen of this. She is, dear God, this woman is the queen of fumbling. She's the queen of bad social climbing strategies. Think about it. Name one positive strategy that Chrissy has on her YouTube channel. Name one positive social strategy. Is it competing with light-skinned women? That's not a good social strategy. Focusing all your energy on women who are lighter than you? That's not a good strategy. Chasing after white men or Hispanic men. And then also, Chrissy will tell her audience, oh, just open your options up. But then she doesn't talk about how she herself has opened up her options. And I also found it interesting how when people were doxing the Exoticals, because people were claiming that they knew who I was, and they said that they knew who all my exes are and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, people who were trying to say that they knew the Exotical's exes, some of the Exoticals were actually with non-black men or married to non-black men. So wouldn't that make the Exoticals more qualified to talk about dating non-black men? Chrissy doesn't even have anything to back up what she's saying. And her being anonymous doesn't help her as an advice channel because, people, they don't have anything to trace the advice back to. They don't have anyone to aspire to. So Chrissy talks all of this shit about how you want to be aspirational, yet Chrissy herself is not aspirational. Also, she allegedly is from Indiana, according to what she said on her channel. She's from Indiana or lives over there in Indiana. So that's not a state. I mean, no shade to Indiana, actually. I have a lot of good friends from Indiana, but it's like, I don't really view Indiana as the pinnacle of like social climbing or even as the pinnacle of dating non-black men. But you know what? Let's talk about Indiana because Indiana does have a very high non-black population. So if there are that many non-black men in Indiana, why has Chrissy still not been successful in her dating life? She talks so much about dating. She talks so much about dating strategies and stuff, and she's got so many critiques for black female celebrities and their dating strategies. She's got so much to say about mixed and light-skinned women celebrities' dating strategies and how they failed, yet she herself is living in a state with millions of non-black men, and she still didn't get picked. They're calling Exoticals pick-me's. Okay, well, these women are the real pick-me's because they're over here desperately strategizing and still failing to get picked by these non-black men. And I also want to say too, one of the things about the Exotical haters is it does tend to be women who are like, they're from these random states. They're from these random cities and states where they never left. Like maybe they grew up in a certain area. They never left their hometown. They never left their home state. They've never lived outside of the Midwest. They never moved out of Florida. They're from the ghettos of Florida. They never moved away from there. They've never been outside of the ratchet areas of Florida. But this person said, not Chrissy's elderly ass putting up a community post about my post. Let's be real. My post was not about your celebrity gossip or colorism takes. It was about you deliberately giving attention to and growing the Exotical pages. Yeah, I mean, she fell for my trap. Do you really think that I'm upset that people make response videos to my content? If I was truly upset or if I truly felt doxxed and exposed, that goes against the terms of service. I could flag those videos down easily. I could get their channels struck down. So there's a reason that I don't do that. It's because all of those channels, even if they are talking shit about me, they're still helping me. They're still building my mystique. They're still building my lore. You know what I mean? They're kind of building a storyline and a controversy around my channel, which I can then use as a marketing tactic in the future. Name one Exotical hater that I have had flagged down. Name one. It's because nothing that they're saying is actually triggering. Nothing that they're saying has been an accurate read on who I am or what my content is. So I feel no need to try to flag down their videos because all they're doing is contributing to my popularity, because then the hate watchers are going to come on here and hate watch. And the lurkers are going to still pay for my Patreon. So even if they're lurkers, all they're going to do is see themselves being talked shit about in the Discord. And then, they already paid the money. So it's like, none of this stuff is actually harming the Exotical channels. But this person says, everyone can do what they want with their platform, just as everyone can critique it. EU would not have even cracked 30K subs if you had just ignored her. You were literally handing her a growth strategy on a silver platter. That's correct. My channel has grown a lot because of rage bait. And obviously my intention wasn't to rage bait when I first created this channel, but all these women are doing is just popularizing the Exoticals. They're causing Exoticals. Anytime they put that word Exotical in their title or their tags or they say it in their video, the algorithm it's going to start promoting Exotical channels to that person. And so if that person is a hater or if that person is the type to watch doxing videos and they're curious, they're going to be watching videos like this. So even if they don't subscribe to my channel, YouTube doesn't pay based on subscribers. It pays based on views. It pays based on views, and then the amount of payment you get for the views depends on the topic that you're talking about. So the more diverse of topics you can talk about, the more diverse your income is actually going to be. So they're growing my income. So even if my channel were to never gain another subscriber, even if I stayed at this exact subscriber rate, I would still be making money. But this person says the self-improvement strategy stuff shouldn't be public, and I don't think you were the one to carry it anyway. I think your skill lies in discussing difficult subjects and enlightening people, so keep at it. Let's talk about Chrissy's self-improvement strategies, because I noticed that Chrissy, she promotes dark-skinned black women being healthy and being at a healthy weight, but she herself is not at a healthy weight. She's not. She admitted that she is, quote, thick and juicy. She also admitted that she was so obese that her own family had to sit her down and say, hey, you got too big. Okay, so that's morbid obesity then. So Chrissy has spent the majority of her life being very obese, and now she is still overweight. So Chrissy is, I think she was what, about 7 or 8 years older than me, so I'm 33. So she would be about 40, 41 by now. So you're telling me that in 40 years, this woman couldn't learn how to have self-control over some chocolate chip cookies. She couldn't learn how to have self-control over her own calorie deficit. Yet she is supposed to be somebody who can give other dark-skinned black women advice on leveling up when she couldn't even do it with her own physical body. All you have in this life is your body. You get one body. If your body dies, then you die. So it's like, she literally is not even prioritizing her physical health. She would rather come on the internet and obsess over who the Exoticals are, or try to dox Exoticals, who are at a healthy weight, by the way. All the Exoticals that they dox, these are women who are very beautiful. These are women who are at a healthy weight. None of the Exoticals that they doxed are women who are obese, hella ugly, their faces look bad. None of them. So in the case of Chrissy, why does she never give her subscribers strategies on weight loss? Well, it's because she herself couldn't lose the weight. She couldn't lose the weight, so that's why she struggles when it comes to her content. That's why she struggles to maintain consistent talking points, consistent content, a consistent brand. She has to constantly rebrand her channel because she has to kind of follow the trends, basically. She's trend chasing. She has to follow the trends because she's not an actual creator. The whole concept is you're supposed to be a content creator. I don't follow the trends, sis. I start the trends. The Exoticals start the trends. That's why we are trending on YouTube. That's why people are talking about us. Because we are a topic of conversation. That's a sign of success. That's why I will never flag those videos down or try to get them removed or try to file a legal claim in order to get a strike on a channel, which Chrissy has done to me, and she does it to other creators. So that's how you know that when we are dragging Chrissy, we must be accurate then. Because why are you filing a legal claim? You're willing to dox your name so you can file an actual legal claim against our channels because you are triggered? Because what we said was actually true. The only two creators who have ever done that to me are Chrissy and Paris Milan. That's why I mention their names a lot. Because I must have been right in what I was saying about those two, because those are the only two where they were willing to try to file legal claims to get a strike on my channel, which is, they wanted my actual channel removed from YouTube. Also, I want to point out that in Chrissy's case, she said that she is not a full-time YouTuber. Maybe she doesn't want to be a full-time YouTuber, but that's another reason that her audience doesn't really trust her, because she doesn't even believe in what she's saying. She doesn't believe in her community enough to dedicate a full-time business to them. So that says a lot. That says a lot. That means that she views her dark-skinned black female audience as, they're a part-time income. So, I'm making passive income off of my dark-skinned black woman's audience's insecurities. So that's actually not the flex that she thinks it is. She's saying, oh, well, I'm not a full-time YouTuber. Okay, well, it's because, number one, you can't be, because the amount of topics you have to discuss, what are you going to talk about other than, other people? Small-minded people, they spend their time talking a lot about other people, whereas the ones who think bigger, they're able to talk about concepts and they're better at community building. So I'm not surprised that she can't be a full-time YouTuber. It's because she doesn't have any direction, really, for her brand. What is her brand? Who's her core audience? What are her top 10 talking points? I couldn't tell you. And I don't think there's not one Chrissy subscriber that can tell you either. And then she said that none of the other channels have matched her growth or viewership. But it's like, okay, Chrissy, you need to compare yourself to the YouTubers that were here at the same time as you 10 and 15 years ago. Where are you compared to them? Why are you comparing yourself to channels like myself that have only been here not even 5 years? I shouldn't even be comparable to a channel like Chrissy's. So do you see what I mean? How her channel, it doesn't have the growth or the sustainability that other people who actually have been around for the same amount of time as her. You can look at black male channels, you can look at black female channels who have been around for the same time as her. She doesn't match them. Channels like Shira7 is a good example. She's been around for about, what, 10 to 15 years as well? And look at Shira7. Look at the difference between Shira7's brand versus like a Chrissy. So that's who Chrissy should be comparing herself to, is people who have actually been on YouTube alongside her for a decade or more. Whether those people are in her niche or not, that's who she should compare to. Why is she comparing to me? I just got here a couple years ago. I'm still a novice when it comes to YouTube. Also, these girls who do this celebrity gossip content and then they try to say, oh, but my content includes self-improvement advice. Well, yeah, you have to use a celebrity as an example. You have to use Olandria as the example because you can't be the example. You can't match Olandria's body type. You can't match. And by the way, I need to make a video about Olandria because I just saw some tea about Nick Olandria the other day. I definitely want to talk about that. But it's like these women, they will use celebrities as the main focal point. The celebrity is the star of their content when they're talking about self-improvement because they couldn't achieve it themselves. Chrissy couldn't achieve weight loss. That's why she talks about other women who are actually skinny. You know, she talks about dark-skinned black celebrities who are actually thin and they're actually in shape. Because Chrissy knows if she were to use herself as the example, she would be discredited. So do you see what I mean about this pattern of the Exotical haters? They can never measure up to the lifestyle that they try to hold us Exoticals to. They never measure up. And then Chrissy had tried to make this other argument where she's like, oh, well, I have a life outside of YouTube. Okay, well, according to the people who tried to dox me, I would have a life outside of YouTube as well. Because according to what they're saying, I got a whole Instagram with tens of thousands of subscribers and brand deals on there. So it's like no matter which way they spin it, the Exoticals are still winning. By the way, I want to call out how Chrissy was advertising clip-ins on her channel. So, Harmony Simone, are you going to call out Chrissy for promoting weaves? Why don't unambiguous women show their real hair? Why can't they just wear their natural hair? Why do they have to wear clip-ins? So do you see what I mean about the hypocrisy? They call out Exoticals for wearing clip-ins, but then they don't call out unambiguous women with 4C hair for wearing clip-ins. But what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comments section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.